Verses 11 to 14. That the name of this Jesus, by the authority of which they acted, is that name alone by which we can be saved. He passes from this particular instance to show that it is not a particular sect or party that is designed to be set up by the doctrine they preached, and the miracle they wrought, which people might either join with or keep off from at their pleasure, as it was with the sects of the philosophers and those among the Jews, but that it is a sacred and divine institution that is hereby ratified and confirmed, and which all people are highly concerned to submit to and come into the measures of. It is not an indifferent thing, but of absolute necessity, that people believe in this name, and call upon it. We are obliged to it in duty to God, and in compliance with His designs. v11 This is the stone which was set at naught of your builders, you that are the rulers of the people, and the elders of Israel, that should be the builders of the church, that pretend to be so, for the church is God's building. Here was a stone offered you, to be put in the chief place of the building, to be the main pillar on which the fabric might entirely rest, but you set it at naught, rejected it, would not make use of it, but threw it by as good for nothing but to make a stepping stone of. But this stone is now become the head of the corner. God has raised up this Jesus whom you rejected, and, by setting him at his right hand, has made him both the cornerstone and the headstone, the center of unity and the fountain of power. Probably St. Peter here chose to make use of this quotation because Christ had himself made use of it, in answer to the demand of the chief priests and the elders concerning his authority, not long before this. Mt 21:42. Scripture is a tried weapon in our spiritual conflicts, let us therefore stick to it. We are obliged to it for our own interest. We are undone if we do not take shelter in this name, and make it our refuge and strong tower, for we cannot be saved but by Jesus Christ, and, if we be not eternally saved, we are eternally undone. v12 Neither is there salvation in any other. As there is no other name by which diseased bodies can be cured, so there is no other by which sinful souls can be saved. By him, and him only, by receiving and embracing his doctrine, salvation must now be hoped for by all. For there is no other religion in the world, no, not that delivered by Moses, by which salvation can be had for those that do not now come into this, at the preaching of it. So, Dr. Hammond. Observe here, first, our salvation is our chief concern, and that which ought to lie nearest to our hearts our rescue from wrath and the curse, and our restoration to God's favor and blessing. Secondly, our salvation is not in ourselves, nor can be obtained by any merit or strength of our own. We can destroy ourselves, but we cannot save ourselves. Thirdly, there are among men many names that pretend to be saving names, but really are not so, many institutions in religion that pretend to settle a reconciliation and correspondence between God and man, but cannot do it. Fourthly, it is only by Christ and his name that those favors can be expected from God which are necessary to our salvation, and that our services can be accepted with God. This is the honor of Christ's name, that it is the only name whereby we must be saved, the only name we have to plead in all our addresses to God. This name is given. God has appointed it, and it is an inestimable benefit freely conferred upon us. It is given under heaven. Christ has not only a great name in heaven, but a great name under heaven, for he has all power both in the upper and in the lower world. It is given among men, who need salvation, men who are ready to perish. We may be saved by his name, that name of his, the Lord our righteousness, and we cannot be saved by any other. How far those may find favor with God who have not the knowledge of Christ, nor any actual faith in him, yet live up to the light they have, it is not our business to determine. But this we know, that whatever saving favor such may receive it is upon the account of Christ, and for his sake only, so that still there is no salvation in any other. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. Isa 45:4. The stand that the court was put to in the prosecution, by this plea, v 13:14. Now was fulfilled that promise Christ made, that he would give them a mouth and wisdom, such as all their adversaries should not be able to gainsay nor resist. They could not deny the cure of the lame man to be both a good deed and a miracle. He was there standing with Peter and John, ready to attest the cure, if there were occasion, and they had nothing to say against it. v. 14, either to disprove it or to disparage it. It was well that it was not the Sabbath day, else they would have had that to say against it. They could not, with all their pomp and power, face down Peter and John. This was a miracle not inferior to the cure of the lame man, considering both what cruel bloody enemies these priests had been to the name of Christ, enough to make any one tremble that appeared for him, and considering what cowardly faint-hearted advocates those disciples had lately been for him, Peter particularly, who denied him for fear of a silly maid, yet now they see the boldness of Peter and John. v. 13. Probably there was something extraordinary and very surprising in their looks. They appeared not only undaunted by the rulers, but daring and daunting to them. They had something majestic in their foreheads, sparkling in their eyes, and commanding, if not terrifying, in their voice. They set their faces like a flint, as the prophet, Isa 50:7, Es. 3:9. The courage of Christ's faithful confessors has often been the confusion of their cruel persecutors. We are here told what increased their wonder. They perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men. They inquired either of the apostles or themselves or of others, and found that they were of mean extraction, born in Galilee, that they were bred fishermen, and had no learned education, had never been at any university, were not brought up at the feet of any of the rabbin, had never been conversant in courts, camps, or colleges, nay, perhaps, talk to them at this time upon any point in natural philosophy, mathematics, or politics, and you will find they know nothing of the matter, and yet speak to them of the Messiah and his kingdom, and they speak with so much clearness, evidence, and assurance, so pertinently and so fluently, and are so ready in the scriptures of the Old Testament relating to it, that the most learned judge upon the bench is not able to answer them, nor to enter the lists with them. They were ignorant men, idioti, private men, men that had not any public character nor employment, and therefore they wondered they should have such high pretensions. They were idiots, so the word signifies they looked upon them with as much contempt as if they had been mere naturals, and expected no more from them, which made them wonder to see what freedom they took. We are told what made their wonder in a great measure to cease. They took knowledge of them that they had been with Jesus. They, themselves, it is probable, had seen them with him in the temple, and now recollected that they had seen them, or some of their servants or those about them informed them of it, for they would not be thought themselves to have taken notice of such inferior people. But when they understood that they had been with Jesus, had been conversant with him, attendant on him, and trained up under him, they knew what to impute their boldness to, nay, their boldness in divine things was enough to show with whom they had had their education. Note, those that have been with Jesus, in converse and communion with him, have been attending on his word, praying in his name, and celebrating the memorials of his death and resurrection, should conduct themselves, in everything, so that those who converse with them may take knowledge of them that they have been with Jesus, and this makes them so holy, and heavenly, and spiritual, and cheerful. This has raised them so much above this world, and filled them with another. One may know that they have been in the mount by the shining of their faces.